what you're finding more and more is these top creators are becoming entrepreneurs. They are being used for campaign after campaign after campaign because they are totally in line with the numbers. They analyze the numbers inside out. They understand their audience intrinsically, which is why I say, influencers are an ex-creatives.
Hello. Welcome to the party. Hi, guys. Welcome back. It's a good week this week. Hi, my name is Jessy Grossman, and I am the founder of Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM. I hope you guys watch on YouTube or Spotify. We have put so much effort into editing this show for video consumption. And it's a lot more fun, I think, to not just see me, but to see our guests, because this week we have a guest episode. And I'm very excited for you. I just think it makes it better. I've said this a few times. I love watching the podcasts that I enjoy. So anyways, I hope you do too. Shoot us a subscribe on our YouTube. Please. We could use a few more subscribers over there. And again, we just put in so much effort into putting these in video format. So I hope you enjoy them. And I hope that more of you guys check it out. So yes, this week is an interview episode. We have a really cool guest that I'm very excited for you guys to meet and get to know. But also, why is this such a good week, you ask? It's because this is the week of our Best in Influencer Tech event. So some of you guys have definitely attended before, and some of you guys have no idea what the heck I'm talking about. So this event, this is I feel like I should know the number by now, but I think this is our 6th or 7th time hosting this event. We do it twice a year. It started during the pandemic when everything was virtual. And while this year was our year of in-person events, and we hosted 2 in LA and 2 in New York and 1 in Chicago, this event just makes the most sense virtual, and we always have a really great turnout. So what the event is it's a virtual demo showcase of who we think are the best companies in influencer tech. Why does this apply to you? It absolutely does. So if you're a talent manager, we have Partner Up, which is a software that's pretty much tailor-made for talent managers, because I've been in your shoes and I know that you need good tech to keep you organized and to keep the campaigns running smoothly and to basically house all of this information. We've got a solution for you, sort of the best in class, discovery, search, reporting, sort of an all-in-one. We've got 2 of those, you guys. We have Tagger, we have Dash Hudson. We also have a really cool company called Trend. And so Trend is all about improving the checkout process for people. I know all of you are always talking about wanting to improve sales and wanting to, increase that ROI. And so Trend is a really cool tech platform that it's specifically focused on making the checkout process frictionless. And so it's twofold. Influencers can create little shops that make the checkout process look so good by, they'll demo it. But basically it makes the checkout process really seamless and really easy, so you don't get drop-offs. And I think that brands should be using tools like that as well, and not enough are. So demos of all of these products, short and sweet, well produced. So it's fun, because we always try to keep our virtual events fun. And in addition to that, I pretty much require them all to have a promotion for you of some sort, because I love a good deal, I love a good discount, and I want to extend that to you guys. So we've done this event many times before. We have almost 200 people registered now, and I hope that we have you as well. So all you have to do is go to iamwim.com/tech and RSVP for that. It is on November 2nd, starting at noon. And if you RSVP, by the way, you do get the ability to watch a replay access on your own time for a short period of time. So if you do have a call and you're oh, I can't make it anyway, still register. Oh, and it's completely free. So there's no friction to that either. Anyways, it's a really good event. I know that a lot of you are looking for either tech in the first place, or looking for better tech, or just trying to solve a lot of problems, or be it is the tech that I use the best that's out there. So truly, we've spent so much time, you guys, in like gathering this group of people. They are freaking amazing. And I am excited to share them with you and also to give you those discounts. Okay. So this week's guest, we have a man on the show, you guys. We invite the men as well. We're a welcoming bunch here at WIM, so we don't discriminate, even though some people are like, it has to be only for women, right? It is not actually. Of course, we love promoting our women, but there are some cool guys too who support women and we support them. So we have guys on the show. So Gordon Glenister, he's an international influencer marketing expert. He set up the influencer division at the Branded Content Marketing Association. He has a best-selling book named Influencer Marketing Strategy and hosts no less than 3 podcasts. Most notable is the Influencer Global podcast. And so some of you guys may follow him and know him from that. He has his own successful influencer marketing program as well, which I think is very cool. I've been wanting to do one myself, but where's the time? Where he designed to help business owners and leaders become subject matter experts and elevate their personal brand. Hello, you guys have heard me talk about how important personal branding is. He's also entrenched in the membership sector, running Membership World, which is a community of association and membership professionals. His website is gordonglenister.com. You can follow him on the social platforms, which we will mention at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoy. We're like siblings from another, I mean, I was going to say sisters from another mister, but we're siblings from another, I don't know. We're similar. We do memberships, community, influencer marketing. He's a really cool guy. He's like my doppelganger in London and the male version. Ridiculous statement, but I think you'll get what I'm saying after you listen to this episode. I appreciate you guys listening and I hope you enjoy. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's iamwim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. All right, Gordon. So I am very excited to have you on today. We chatted a little bit last week, got to know each other, and I just feel like there's, first of all, a lot of synergies between us, which is kind of refreshing, to be completely honest. I don't meet a lot of people who are in this niche world of influencer marketing meets membership. So I was looking forward to our call last week. And then I was like, ooh, now we can continue the conversation on this show. So first and foremost, welcome and how are you?
Yes, welcome to you too, and I'm really pleased to be on your show. I mean, you were saying how pleased you were to have a discussion with me. Well, ditto, and vice versa. I'm hugely supportive and inspired by what you've done in America as well. So well done, you.
Thank you. And I'm equally as impressed and I think it's pretty cool. We're conquering the world on different sides of it, which is pretty cool, right?
Exactly.
So, for those people who are tuning in, and our audience is a mix of all different kinds of people on the brand side, the management side, we certainly get some creators even who tune in. I think it would be really cool for them to hear a little bit about you in your own words, about your own professional journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'll make it brief because there's a lot that's happened. So I've come from the association background, actually. I used to run the British Promotional Merchandise Association for 11 years. And then in 2018, I left that industry with a view to helping other trade associations with their strategy and membership growth, all sorts of things like that. And one of them was the Branded Content Marketing Association. And I sat with the CEO Never forget it, in a Soho London hotel, and we were having a chat about various things about membership. And then I said to him, almost at the end of our conversation, I said, "What about this whole influencer space? I mean, it's mad, isn't it? It's a bit unregulated, a bit like a Wild West. But who's looking after and representing this industry from a best practice point of view, from an educational point of view, and indeed from a lobbying point of view?" So he looked at me as if to say, I'm not sure there is anybody. So we decided to create, well, we were going to have a separate trade association, professional membership body. But then we thought, well, why don't we create a division within the Branded Content Marketing Association? Because we're already got a footprint in 17 different countries through our sort of franchise model. And branded content and influencer marketing is very sort of symbiotic in a way. So that's what happened. We launched it in 2019 in a big London nightclub, which in itself was quite an amazing feast. What I got in terms of borrowed and begged to get stuff, because you probably know when you launch something, you don't always have a big budget. And even the goodie bag was worth over £100 of all sorts of exciting things. In fact, what made me laugh actually is I got quite a lot of influencers that came to the event, and one or two of them would stay for a little bit, get their picture, get their goodie bag, and then they'd be off because it was just one free drink, you know. And then I remember speaking to one of them and I said, "Oh, it's really great to see you. Why are you leaving?" She said, "Oh, it's been amazing, Gordon, but I've got 4 other events to go to tonight." And it's just, at that moment, I thought, oh my goodness, it just shows you how popular some of these people are and how much in demand they were. So not long after that, I found myself launching a podcast, which is now very successful, called the Influence Global Podcast. And we've interviewed some amazing people all around the world. And then a little while after that, I went to a marketing show and asked if they got a book on influencer marketing. And they said that they hadn't. So I thought, bearing in mind, you have to remember, Jessy, I didn't know a lot about the sector. I sort of fell into this, and so, I certainly had never written a book before in my life. So I thought, right, well, how about I put a proposal forward to this publisher. And after my first hit, they were really interested and they started to chase me down because people say to me, "Oh, it's really difficult to get a publishing deal." I had the editor literally saying, "We like your proposal. Can we have a meeting?" And I thought, yeah, I'll get around to it in a minute. And anyway, I did. And I was really delighted to get the publishing contract. But you know what the moral of this story is that if you want to create a great book, interview some amazing people. And that's what I did. I interviewed what I call the godfathers of the industry. So when the book actually came to be launched, I used the powers of influencer marketing to literally get my book, because all these people that have supported the book shared it on their own socials and were very supportive of me. It's since been translated into Portuguese in Brazil. And we've also made a documentary film, which is nuts, really. I think I told you about this, didn't I, last time? So the Brazilian publishing flew me over there, and we did a launch in Sao Paulo in this cinema. In fact, the tickets to the event sold out in 1 minute. That's how big the Brazilians treat influencer marketing. And I've got all these photographers there. I was signing books for 3 hours. And I'm just like this regular guy from Cambridge in the United Kingdom that's come into this sort of space. And do you know what? I've loved it. The whole journey that I'm now also a university lecturer with some, I'm all about helping the next generation of marketeers get into influencer marketing. And I'm an international speaker as well. I love it. I love really making a difference. And you'll notice for those that are viewing as opposed to listening that I'm not 23 and I'm not a woman. I'm almost 60. And in a way, I'm really proud that I'm able to sort of really shine a spotlight on a lot of these young people that create amazing content, great brand collaborations. And it's now a discipline that is really shaking up the whole advertising media.
Well, I want to comment specifically on even just the last thing that you mentioned, because we've talked about it on this show before, and it's like a very real thing in my mind, and I'll just call it out. So I think we're all of us, for the most part, are so aware that like influencer marketing is this very unique industry where it skews very young, it skews very female.
It
And
does.
so for me, of course, I got the female thing going for me, but I'm always like thinking, how much longer am I going to until I age out of it? There's like a very real fear there. Will I age out of this? Or, will just like my predecessors who are younger be, the ones who are more sought after, things like that. Two things I want to say. Number one is I really appreciate that it sounds like you're very much invested in the next generation of people and really like uplifting those voices around you. So it isn't just about, this fear of, what will happen to me. It sounds like you're very invested in others. But I also like really appreciate your approach because along with that, I hear, in your book, it's not just your thoughts. It's like, no, I'm going to like quote all these brilliant people around me and give
Absolutely.
them a platform and learn from them. And so, yes, we've talked about it on the show before. So I wanted to bring it up. But I think that, like, if anyone out there is like me, I don't think I'm alone of this idea of like, like interesting industry where, could I age out of it? I think what you're doing is a way to not age out of
Mm.
it, which is to really just continue to be open to learning from others around you, to like check your ego at the door. And even in our brief few conversations, like I appreciate that about you. I think that that's very like obvious about your approach to this. And I can probably venture to say that's why you've had a lot of success in it. So I just wanted to call that out.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. Yeah, yeah. And actually, there was some numbers around the average age being around 28 and over 80% of influencers being women, which is obviously mirrored by many of the campaigns. But here's the thing, I feel really strongly about men over 50, A, because I'm in that category, but we are the single biggest amount of disposable income. Our kids have left the home in many cases. We can go on more holidays. We can, the mortgages have been paid off, and yet who's talking to us? Literally, who is talking to us? If I want to go and buy a really nice car, I've got to see a 23-year-old driving around in it, and I just because he's got a big audience. So one of the things I feel really strongly about is representation, and that's not just about age; that's also about ethnicity. So with the BCMA, we've got a company member called Open Influence. They're based in Los Angeles, actually. You probably know them. I really love what they do. I remember when I was talking to their former CEO about diversity when it comes to campaigns. So they would often put forward a truly representative mix of different types of influencers that they felt were very representative of a particular campaign. What they found really frustrating is then the brand might say, no, we're just going to go with these white female individuals. And what I'm really pleased about is, and they said to me that there's been one or two instances when they have rejected going forward with the campaign because they felt that it was an unhealthy way to move forward with the campaign, which I think is great because we've got to feel that, it doesn't matter where you come from, what your disposition is. There's unfortunately a few naive influencers that are out there that don't know their true worth and value. We should be really educating both brands and content creators about this can really, really work. Both of you have different things to play. Brands want relevant audience. Creators want to create collaborations with brands that are totally aligned together. So that's what I love to speak about is education all the way through.
And just like fair practices, like what's fair, like,
Absolutely.
because I will say this, I think that part of the beauty of influencer marketing, because like I come from this super regulated world of working with actors, it's all very unionized and things like
Mm.
that. So, like, I love sort of the freedom that exists in influencer marketing as someone who enjoys negotiating, right? Because it gives me so much more to negotiate for. But within that, there should still be, in my mind, a framework of but this is within the parameters of fair. This is in the
Correct.
parameters of, if these are our boundaries, then, and we stay somewhere within them, our industry will excel and people will be treated fairly and all good things. I haven't actually announced this publicly, but I just joined as an advisor on the Creators Guild of America. And so we're actually having conversations just like that. Like,
Mhm.
so what is fair? Like, what are some things that we can all agree on, And like, for example, like payment terms, like at what
Absolutely.
point is it egregious that, like, you shouldn't pay after, is it 90 days? Is it 120 days? Like, how, what is that number? And that's the limit. And of course we can negotiate down from there and all within those parameters. But yeah, I think it's important to sort of establish some ground rules, right?
Well, actually, it's a really good point that you make. And of course, a lot of these newer influencers have become accidental business owners, or even if it's a side hustle. And so they won't necessarily have the business acumen. And I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way. They just won't have been known. And that's why that naivety has meant that brands and agencies have leveraged that and it's almost said, yeah, will you do this and will you do that extra? And we're going to put your images on our website. And so that the rights issues, for example, are classics where the influencer has not negotiated extra payment for wider usage. And payment, don't get me started about payment. Generally, I have a real big bugbear about that. I mean, if big brands want to take 120 days or 90 days to pay somebody, is absolutely outrageous and totally not acceptable. And I'm just thinking, why would you do that to an influencer with a big audience? I mean, you're thinking, they've got an audience that could say, don't work with this brand. These aren't the right people to work with. That could be super damaging for the brand. So, I always say treat your influencers, content creators with respect. They're not employees. They are proper professionals in their own space. That's why the BCMA created a set of industry best practice guidelines, and I'm really proud about that. We work together as a council to really go through those things that we felt were really, really important to both content creator and brand, because I think sometimes brands don't know what best practice is. They, particularly the newer organizations that are investing in influencer marketing for the first time, they may see influencer marketing just like they would like any other form of ad spend, and it's not.
And that it was exactly gonna be my next question for you. So, like, predominantly on our audience is, generally influencer marketers working for brands and agencies, and we have talent managers, things like that. But my question to you is, what would you tell influencer marketers that they should be doing better? And I'm gonna leave it broad and open to interpretation, however you wanna answer that question.
Well, I mean, for me, it is all about having a best practice template. It's about making sure that every negotiation is tabled. You have a proper brief. And I mean a proper brief. I mean, there's detail and there's super detail. How many times do you say in the brief, well, this is the way the product is being pronounced? Is it Adidas or Adidas? Is it Nike or Nike? Because actually, let's just use that as an example. They could have gone and made this super video and they say, actually, no, this is not the way we pronounce our brand. Go do it again. Well, that is a huge amount of cost and time wasted. Um, I think in that brief, there should be things like, these are our sort of competitors. These are some of the keywords that we use. These are some of the hashtags that we use. These are our key selling tips, our features and benefits. When we've done advertising with our sales teams, these are the things that have worked. Now that's not an instruction manual. That is just use,
It's a guide. It's guide
it's a
rails.
total guide to give them as much. It's like saying, well, if you hired a salesperson, you wouldn't just say, right, there you go, then off you go, and let's just watch the sales roll in. No, you want to give them as much information that allows them to be successful. Because for me, a successful campaign with an influencer works well for the influencer, works well for the brand. and vice versa. If it lands badly, the influencer might get paid, but a campaign that doesn't work for the influencer doesn't look good for the influencer either and their audience. They both have a vested interest in making sure this works. So I think, and when it comes to contracts, it's making sure it's super clear about, what happens if you don't post at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Well, because unfortunately, there are some influencers that said, "Oh, I was busy. I didn't get around to it." Well, sorry, but we're paying you because it's part of a major product launch. So I think it's also about understanding that if you are going to enter a financial collaboration, that you are super clear with what is expected of you and what happens if you don't. If you blaspheme in the video, or if you don't manage, because the brand doesn't want to get blowback either. So it's just literally about common sense. Another sort of tip often is to have the contact details in WhatsApp or Slack or something, so that you're able to communicate much more quickly and easily. I know that works very well with influencers. Making sure that they're always informed throughout the process, so that that there's a general level of excitement that when the post goes live, how's it going? Share any sort of comments, because it's almost like they're going on a journey. And I can't remember if I shared this with our previous conversation, but there was a black content creator that I interviewed as part of one of my podcasts, and she was amazing. She was a Scottish creator, and she did a campaign with a quintessential British brand, perhaps not necessarily you would have associated with a diverse audience. So basically, what she did was an amazing video, really creative. And some of the comments that she got back were, "I loved this. This was amazing. And I wouldn't have associated myself with that brand until you created that type of content." Now, she was able to literally screen grab that, feed that back to the audience. So it was her tone of voice that was making it very much more acceptable than the traditional advertising, which was a little bit bland and not necessarily identifying these little niches, which of course influencer marketing can really do well for.
I really appreciate you saying that. I think I don't know, I've been dying to have just more innovation generally, and I also come from the world of advertising. So what I appreciate you saying is it wasn't advertising. It wasn't, it there's such a distinction there, and it was received as such. And I think that, too much of the time we get influencer marketers, we get into these routines. And I think that a lot of people are trying to scale this. And so, how do you scale something? You create a process and you create repeatable systems and
Mm.
stuff. And I think I've said it a bunch of times on this show and elsewhere. I just don't really think influencer marketing is scalable. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a relationship business at its
Right.
core, relationships amongst creators and brands, certainly relationships amongst influencers and their communities. And I don't think that if you treat it as a scalable relationship, it loses that, personal touch, that
100%.
connection that is so important. So you could never have a story to tell like you just did, where obviously she shared something in such a personal way that it really resonated with someone, and it made somebody think about this brand in a completely different way. They didn't identify with it. It obviously didn't really mean anything to them originally. And for that to shift, that has to be done in such a particular way?
100%. I just want to add something as well. I think so often we think about influencer marketing as brand awareness, and now increasingly as a sales channel. But one area that I think has got huge potential is one of research. In other words, is using product ideas and I know some of the footwear companies have explored this idea of having your own personalized t-shirt, your own personalized shoe, but so the audience can start to add as part of the R&D. And I think that's really fascinating. And I want to just bring with you an example of an influencer agency that in Brazil, I think it was in Brazil, yeah. They decided to bring four influencers to a hotel for 3 or 4 days. And they were going to create a brand together with these influencers and their audience live while this was going on. It was a product that was already successful in North America, but they wanted to see how the South American, it was a sweetener brand. Cut a long story short, it was so successful because the individual influencers were reaching out to their followers and say, look, they were about telling the story of what they were doing. They were going brand strategy, colors, what's important to you as a sweetener, what was it, ingredients, and all this sort of stuff was coming together. And so, of course, when the product came to be launched, these influencers and their audiences were very much involved because they'd seen the process of ideation right the way through to end result. And there couldn't have been a better ROI because actually the company that invested in this UK agency bought the agency because they were so impressed with it.
That's a cool success story.
Yeah, interesting, eh?
I would love to see influencer marketing just like imploring more creativity, like what you described is like it's about the colors and like all those nitty gritty details. So I don't know. I love it's a very different mindset when you approach this work from like a really truly creative lens.
Well, the answer to that is not to use them as pure amplifiers, is to actually bring them into the creative process much, much earlier. I mean, I talk about influencers being the next creative agencies. I really, really do. I mean, they've got so much potential, which sadly sometimes is left. So the brand's got the idea, they've got the campaign, and they said, oh, we'll just get some influencers to push it out and amplify. No. These are people that know the audience, know the market you're in. Why don't you bring them into a brainstorming session about what could be and the direction of this campaign? And I think you get spectacular results.
Totally. And I don't know, there's been like an interesting conversation happening lately that I'm very intrigued by, which is this distinction between creators and influencers. And, that creators are obviously the creatives that you're describing. Influencers are those that are more salespeople in my mind. And some people are both. I think, if we're creating like a Venn diagram, like fewer are in that in between place and much more on either side. Man, like if you could just find and identify those people who are both, or strategically use creators for this, influencers for that. I think that could be a really powerful thing. I'm curious to hear from you with all this being said, what do you think is the future of influencer marketing? Like, let's not talk 20 years from now, but like, just in the next year, like, what would you predict might be some changes or things we might see?
So I definitely think over the last few years, and you are seeing a more professional industry emerge. There's more people that are content creators that are coming in at the bottom of the triangle, but actually the top triangle. You've come from an acting profession. What you're finding more and more is these top creators are becoming entrepreneurs, and they are being used for campaign after campaign after campaign because they are totally in line with the numbers. They know what type of video works. They analyze the numbers inside out. They understand their audience intrinsically, which is why I say, influencers are our next creative agencies rather. I also see social commerce. We've already starting to see a lot more of that. And of course, Asia has exploded with this all well before us. And, when you've got people like Becky Lai, who famously sold 100 minis, i.e. the cars, in less than 5 minutes from one of her posts. I think that just speaks volumes about what's possible. And you get sort of fan mania in certain parts of the world. It really is quite funny to watch.
Are there to that point, I would love to like from your perspective, I want to lean into the fact that you're on the other side of the pond and you have a more unique perspective being where you are. Like, are there any markets in particular that you think are sort of hot that people should particularly explore if they've just been solely focused on America? And Also, I'm curious, like, so you were mentioning earlier about like the Asian market being, obviously incredible for social selling. And,
Mm,
I'm so aware that our community in particular, WIM, like we're just pretty solely focused on the American market. And I think that there's so much more out there and opportunities in other markets to like
100%.
explore for certain products and services, parts of the world that people should like really pay attention to because there's a lot of exciting things happening there in terms of influencer marketing.
Definitely. Definitely, definitely. Well, obviously, I'm writing the next edition of Influencer Marketing as we speak. And there's a section in the book which is all about influencer marketing around the world. And when I did it last time, I sort of touched on all of these different markets. I mean, America is huge for sure, but Brazil is massive. They go nuts in Brazil for great YouTubers. In fact, I think so I've seen some stats that suggest that there's a greater conversion of influencers to product sales in Brazil than anywhere else in the world, as a proportion. So I think the other big area is the Middle East. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are setting themselves up as world destinations for content creators. So they are literally, I was able to go to an event in December last year. It was called the 1 billion Summit, 1 billion follower summit, bigger pardon. And the idea being is the speakers at the event had a combined follower number of over a
How
billion
many people
followers.
could have been
And
there? Like how many influencers?
there were 3,000 content creators. They had 20,000 apply. They only accepted
Wow.
3,000 people. And it was just honestly, it should have been there. It was so funny because when they opened the doors, it was a bit of a wow experience, and everybody's got their phone out doing like
I
all
feel like
this sort of
that's
stuff.
like
And
I
that
mean, that's like, I don't know, you, like, walk into a room of celebrities, but, like, more even so than that, I'd be so curious, like, to sort of, like, examine, like, how are these people, like, all in one room? That's such a fascinating thing.
But also, what's really great is I interviewed. So I've got another podcast in the Middle East actually called "Growing Your Influence," and I interviewed a guy called the Car Expert, and he has like 400,000 followers or more on Instagram. And guess what? Nobody's ever seen him. His face is covered all of the time. Isn't that amazing? And yet he delivers this amazing support network. He gets about 300 messages a day asking for people around. I've got a problem with my exhaust. I've got a problem with this part of the car, and he'll answer. Look, you try and pitch or sell to him, he'll ignore you. But if you've got a problem with your car, so he's totally engaged with his audience. And it was really funny talking like we are now, talking to him on the podcast, and I couldn't see his face.
That is so funny, and that like, I love that example, though, and that's sort of what I was getting at. I just wanna make sure that, like, our listeners, our members, like, they're all aware of things that are sort of outside of their comfort zone or outside of their zone of awareness out there for the taking. Like, you might listening right now and have this brand and, just hearing the story, it's like, "Oh, there's, like, this other world out there of influencers that, like, I don't know, they have a influence over people and don't necessarily have a platform that looks like we expect it to. Like it might not be as traditional, whatever that if that's even possible because our industry is so new, but in the traditional sense doesn't look and sound like we're used to, but there's so much there in terms of reach and just possibility and partnership. So I just want to encourage everybody to like think outside the box a bit more. So I appreciate that example. And even just knowing about other markets out there that they can be exploring as well. We have a huge part of our community has sort of like left there's like another group of our members who have left their corporate jobs and are out there freelancing and creating their own businesses as consultants in influencer marketing. And to know that like,
Mm.
oh my God, go like explore other markets where, maybe they're less tapped, but they're ripe for the taking. And I just think it's good to have an awareness of these things. Um, I always like to ask our guests this. Do you have any pet peeves of people who are influencer marketers, whether it's like on the brand side or the creators? Like, Is there anything that you're just like, oh my gosh, can we all stop doing this, please?
I have. uh,
What are those? Will you like to share the class?
well, one, and it's not, you know what? It's not just linked to influencer marketing. It's what I call ghosting. It's the fact that when people that we know is do what you say you're going to do, respond in an appropriate manner. And if I've sent you a request for something and I need something, it's not because I'm interrupting your time. It's because I can't pull this together without you doing it. It's almost like we have to say, I used to do something before where I was like, second request on the email. It's funny how actually people did respond to that, but it's just manners and etiquette about please respond to people, because it's just otherwise we all end up just keep asking again and asking again. If you looked at how many things are chase emails or chase responses, and I bet any of you that are in talent management will be nodding your head listening to this, because you'll know exactly what I mean, And, those people that are professional and get on in business, they have a business ethic wired into them because they know it's all about, let's make it happen together. Well, those that don't, they potentially are going to lose opportunities because they'll miss windows where they've got to get back. And also, there's no excuse for missing deadlines. Quite frankly, if you're missing deadlines, you have an impact on the agency. Everybody just makes you look stupid,
I actually hope that maybe that's my hope for next year along those lines. I hope that more people set a line, like a bright
Absolutely.
line test, being like, if you are just missing deadlines, if you are just not acting professional, like we are not working with you again. I feel like people make a lot of excuses sometimes, like, oh, like, their reach is just so great that like, oh, we'll make it work. We'll like white knuckle our way through
Mhm.
it. We'll look the other way. And it's like, no, like, because that shouldn't be acceptable. And also, if we enable behavior like that, it's going to continue. And I think I wish that we all just thought about like our industry big picture. And, we're not established enough like to be able to let things slide. I think that there's still so many people out there who like doubt influencer marketing and think that it's like a fad and think that it's definitely going to go away and it's ridiculous. And I think that's so
Yeah.
fundamentally not true, but I think that we need to grow up a little bit. I think we need to hold each other to a higher
Yeah.
standard. So I appreciate that. I wish we could keep chatting forever. I know we're running short on time. I would love for you to pitch anything that you've got that you want our audience to know about, whether to follow you. I know you have a course. Like, what should our audience know and
Oh,
how
that's
can they get in
nice
touch?
for you to say. You obviously got a book on influencer marketing strategy, which anybody can buy from Amazon or leading bookstores. Also, hook up with my podcast. It's called Influence, the Global Podcast. And yes, I do have a program. And the program fundamentally is all about helping make you more influential, not just as an influencer, but as a subject matter expert. And a lot of what we talk about is developing a real strong personal brand, so people really connect with you on a deeper level. I always say a brand is what somebody says about you when you're not in the room. It's not what you say it is; it's what other people say you are. And if you've got a real grasp of your subject matter and are leveraging that through all these different channels, then the future is bright.
I love that. We're going to link all of those things in our show notes so you guys can find them easily. Gordon's a great person to know, to follow. So check out all of these things, the book especially, and you have a new one that's going to be coming out in the future. So keep an eye out for that, guys. Gordon, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it.
No, it's lovely to be on with you as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at iamwim.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we could ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.